Hey guys, we're here with ABC News having an interview with a civil liberties expert in regards to the new protest laws coming out in New South Wales. So we'll try to keep interruptions to a minimum as this one's a bit long, but it's pretty important, so let's have a look.
Concerns are rising for the future of protests in New South Wales as police deliberate another extension to current restrictions. The emergency laws have been in place since the Bondi terror attack back in December.
Which, by the way, has been proven to have no link whatsoever with any of the protest movements.
But civil liberties experts have been critical of them. I'm joined here in the studio by Tim Roberts, President of the New South Wales Council for Civil Liberties. Hi there, Tim. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
What is your major concern with this new legislation?
Well, the laws we're talking about here are a broad discretion for the Police Commissioner to basically decide what protests can and can't be authorised. And that is to say are protected from the intervention of police powers. There's a very broad chilling effect with that sort of police oversight and discretion that we're worried about, and we're really calling on the Commissioner to not extend the powers, and we're still pressing that the New South Wales Premier sees sense and winds these laws back.
That's fantastic. The experts are on our side. We need to wind back these ridiculous laws and make it so that we can have our free speech again. That's fantastic.
Do you agree, though, Tim, that in the light of the awful attack in Bondi, that there did need to be some restrictions on mass gatherings?
That feels like a loaded question. Well, let's see what his response is, and we'll see if she asks any more.
I think there's a link that's been made by this government between the protest that we saw, the peaceful protest we saw through Sydney, and the Bondi attack. The two are not linked. And those who try to connect them, I think, are doing so in bad faith. We have democratic rights of assembly and speech, which is what we're talking about when we're talking about protest. As a community, it's essential that we have a freedom to do that, so that we can legitimise the democracy that puts Mins in power to give him and pass these laws.
The police would, and the politicians would argue, we're not stopping people from protesting, we're just putting constraints on them. They can protest in one set spot, for example.
The police and politicians would argue, not her. The police and politicians would argue. That's two interestingly worded sentences.
And then this will be analysed. So are those boundaries still too much for you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the powers that are on play here are so broad and so encompassing that I just don't think that the nitty-gritty about constraint is a much more nuanced conversation than these laws even propose. The Police Commissioner has a right to extend without limit, at his own discretion, for 3 months to ban any authorisation of protest in very unrestricted areas. So that's...
Presumably he's taking guidance, though.
No, he doesn't. He said it in the last police conference. I don't have to consult with anyone about this. This is his
Does he
power.
have to give reasons?
No, he just has the power. The Mins government has just given him this power.
Power to act on a whim.
Now, Malianen is probably a fantastic operational leader of the police, but I think he's distracted from that role when he's taking on a political conversation and a political task about banning protests. And we're talking about all protests. We're in the shadow of the Australia Day and likely Invasion Day conversation that's going to happen here.
And he has actually said that there won't be infringements on protests for that day.
Which is fantastic, but who is the Police Commissioner to say they can or can't happen at all? That's our question. I don't want to be looking to the report every 2 weeks to see what our police commissioner says. That's not how our democracy works. We have that freedom, and I quite frankly think he's infringed upon it.
What would you like to see happen?
Well, I'd like to see him in this moment, because he's been given powers that he shouldn't have, show the discretion and not extend. To use the legislation says he can choose not to extend. I'd like to see him do that. I think it's a show of good faith to the community with the conversations that are happening. The global conversations around Venezuela and other things have moved on. So there's demonstrations that are happening now. There's groups in the community that should be free to ask police for authorisation and assembly, and we're better for it as a community.
There's also the question, Tim, of how these events, both historically and I guess in the future, are policed, because different protest events are policed differently, aren't they? And he is the man that's deciding that.
And we see it, and that I think is one of the other concerns. I want a police force that is focused on keeping us safe. And I think their role is undermined in that if we've got people really questioning how they're responding to some protest over others. We want to see the even hand of the law. And I think what we're seeing, unfortunately, at least colloquially, is some protests like the Palestine action groups and representations seeing a lot more police presence, a lot more scrutiny, whereas others not so much. I think even the fact that we're having that question, that conversation, is a distraction from what police should be doing. And I think the community's better served when they're focused on just that.
After the Bondi terror attack, it was generally believed that something needed to be done to curb the wave of anti-Semitism. Do you think this is being used as one of those methods?
Again, this is another loaded question where she's trying to feed him to a specific answer where he's going to justify their reaction to what's going on.
I think this is being used as a way for politicians. I think we're seeing a bit of it at the federal level as well with the hate speech laws, where we're using politicians using broad sweeping powers to try and encroach on our freedoms of speech.
And he avoids it. Well done.
As opposed to getting down to the real rub of community, social cohesion. You don't get to peace by just silencing the community. That's just asking for people to be quiet. Angry dads do the same thing when they ask for the kids to shut up at home. That's not peace. That's not a happy family.
That's just oppression, isn't it? It's not fun when that happens, is it?
If we want a happy community, we need to have the freedom to have that discussion. I think protest is one way of doing that. And I think maybe civil laws and discussions in, discrimination tribunals may be another. The criminal law, the use of police power, is fundamentally not that.
You mentioned the hate speech laws, which Parliament in Canberra is going to debate Monday, Tuesday next week. The Liberals are saying it needs to be thought out more. Is there a danger when there's such horrific acts like happened at Bondi Beach that politicians, the legislators, try to rush through new rules, new regulations to try and counter what has happened, to try and appease the surge in public feeling?
I think we have a political class at the moment that wants to seem to be doing something. And I think laws like this are just that. A broad sweeping, unconsidered laws, 3 days of community consultation, ridiculous. It's not good faith, it's not transparency, it's not good government. So I think we have a Prime Minister that wants to seem strong on this, and he's, I think, really undermining, again, the democracy that put him in place. If he wants to seem strong, I ask him to show true political leadership, abandon these laws, and get down to the real rub instead of these culture wars almost that we're having, solving the divisions in our community. And you don't do that by undermining our civil liberties.
Tim Roberts from the Council for Civil Liberties, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Tim Roberts, you absolute legend. Well done. Keep up the good work, and we will too. Holy hell. Round of applause for sticking it to the man.